With everything that's going on in the world and all the misinformation around it, this week I want to tackle some right-wing myths that have seemingly convinced many. Number 1, benefit scroungers. We've all heard it from a friend, family member, or maybe you believe it yourself. Is the welfare state bloated and are millions of people lazily claiming lots and lots of benefits in houses nicer than yours? No. First of all, the biggest expenditure of the benefit system is spent on pensions, coming in at £163.1 billion. We wouldn't want to remove that now, would we? Those that have worked hard their entire lives should be looked after, although under this government we are seeing it deteriorate. Then there are people who are claiming whilst already in work. Work in Britain doesn't pay, therefore the state has to support people. Due to a lack of collective bargaining in 2021, we still have employers paying workers under the living wage. Then you also factor in the rise of the cost of living, housing prices, and so forth. Then there are of course the unemployed, which is what the system is designed for, so there really shouldn't be many complaints here. The total budget for welfare excluding pensions is £84 billion. Broken down into sections, we can see that unemployment benefits amount to only £1.6 billion. Therefore, the unemployed are being scapegoated as a reason to attack the welfare state as a whole.
Myth number 2, Britain is full.
Our public services are stretched, we don't have enough housing, too much immigration? Britain must be full. This is one of the most successful myths that have perpetrated not just this country, but the world over. Britain is not full. Demagogues will use this line to pursue a political agenda. The trick is to use real-world examples, i.e. stagnant wages, crumbling infrastructure and declining public services, and attribute it to a myth such as too much immigration. Then there's also the fact that only 6% of the UK is built on. Oh, and by the way, half of England is owned by corporations and members of the aristocracy, who represents less than 1% of the population. Myth number 3, governments are spending too much.
Politicians spend so much time arguing amongst themselves about the problem. Economics is really simple. I've got £10 in my pocket. If I go out and buy 3 pints of beer in Cambridge, I'm probably borrowing money. If I carry on doing that, then I'm going to run out of money and I'm going to go bust. It's not difficult, guys. Just sit down, work out what the country needs to do and work collectively
because the
together.
country does not operate as your budget does.
We have a budget.
But why not? Why not? Why
In
not?
the country, total expenditure equals total income. In your life, you have a wonderful independence between your expenses and your income. So when you cut down on your expenses, your income doesn't cut. It's not cut. But for the country as a whole, if the country as a whole goes into a major savings spree, then its total income is going to come down. So your personal life is not a good model on which to base running the economy.
Just simply excellent. I love that clip. Unfortunately, since our media doesn't do a very good job of educating, we have too many believing that our economy behaves in a certain way. To reiterate Varoufakis' point, in our lives we have an independence between our income and our expenditure. If I choose to stay at home and not spend any money, yes, I will come out richer. I don't need to spend money to generate income. My job does that for me. However, on a macro government level, if we stop spending money, well, carnage would ensue. We still need the government to spend money on the NHS to keep it going, which extends to government employees to keep them in work. Everything needs to function. Take our railways for example. Since they've been partly put back into public ownership, it is now the government's job to keep Britain moving, i.e. get people to work, which is a multiplier effect. People work, increase tax receipts, that money is spent generating economic activity. I'm sure you get the rest. Spending more is a really good thing, which brings me perfectly on to myth number 4, austerity is a necessity. Since 2010, we've been paying for those that crashed the economy, the bankers, and well, capitalism itself. People have suffered, and 120,000 people died due to the government's decision to implement draconian public spending cuts. But we needed to, right? We had an ever-growing debt. The deficit needs eliminating. We don't want to pass down debt to future generations. The classic right-wing Tory talking point. None of these are economically literate. If you hear anyone saying these things, educate them or show them this video. Austerity has been a complete waste of time since it was a political choice and nothing about saving the economy. As I said in my previous point, spending money is a good thing. We need a functioning NHS to maintain a happy, healthy population, meaning we have people who are able to work and generate more economic activity. In the same way, a world-class public transport gets people to where they need to go, whether it's for work or for leisure. Austerity has also increased the size of the debt, not reduced it. For all the lives lost, for all the misery the Tories have caused, it was for nothing. The Tories have never been competent on the economy, despite managing to fool people. In fact, before the pandemic, since 2010, the Tories managed to double the debt to £2 trillion, which is more than every single Labour government combined. Myth number 5. The rich are job creators. How many times have you heard this one? We must not tax the rich too high. We need to stop implementing too much red tape. Let's stop being mean to the mega rich. Leave those poor billionaires alone. After all, they do create the jobs. This is a big fat lie. The myth has been specifically designed to push a certain economic agenda. It's been happening for decades. The first iteration of this was called trickle-down economics. Cut the taxes, strip away the regulation, and let the owner class make incredible profits. The idea that one day the wealth would trickle down to its workers. Trickle down it did not. Actually, the opposite happened. Trade unions were dismantled. Great for bosses. Public services were privatised. Fantastic for opportunistic corporations. But inequality exploded. Today, the new argument to rehash an old, failed economic policy is that the rich just simply deserve more. They're the ones that create our jobs. You should be so lucky you're in work. Imagine a scenario, for example, Tesco. The cleaners don't turn up. Well, the shop can't open. You need a clean and hygienic store, don't you? What if the delivery team doesn't show up? Who's going to bring the stock to sell? And what about those who work on the tills? Who's going to collect the money? Yet, if a CEO dies, the company continues as normal. The stores tick along, the money rolls in, the decision making is allocated to the board of directors. Yet, the CEO is on mega money. The point is, we generate the income. We create the jobs. Us as workers and as consumers. If no one spends any money, there's no profits. And no profits, no job. No job, no company. Unfortunately, we have fetishized wealth and those who hoard it. Rather than realizing that collectively we keep things going, when we should be looking toward a world with less work and more leisure, we are fighting against those attacking our basic dignities. So if next time you advocate for higher wages, better conditions or more government help, and you run into these arguments, well, you know what to do.